Hey you, welcome to my channel. In this video, I wanted to explain some of the steps I went through when picking out my cargo bike. So, spoiler, I did end up buying an Urban Arrow, but when I first saw the Urban Arrow, I was like, too expensive, not for me. I wrote them off pretty quickly. So, in this video, I was going to go through how I came around to the Urban Arrow and did ultimately end up buying that bicycle. I looked at a ton of cargo bikes, and ultimately it came down to deciding between a three-wheeled bunch bike and a two-wheeled Urban Arrow. Honestly, a lot of this just came down to availability in my area because I live in the middle of the United States and there are very limited options available for cargo bikes, especially if you want to test ride. However, the company that has the test ride down is Bunch Bike. They have a service on their website where you can go in and put your location and it will show you nearby Bunch Bike owners and give you the ability to get in contact with these people, usually through email, I think. I'll include a link below to their website where you can go through this process yourself. But I had two offers from two different women in my area to ride their bunch bike within like 48 hours of starting this process. So it was super easy. My whole family took a test ride on a bunch bike this winter, and I had never ridden a pedal assist bike or a trike for that matter, but it was pretty easy and we loved it. We met in a parking lot. I took the bunch bike once around the parking lot. Then my 3-year-old daughter got in it with me, and I rode her around. And she's a bit of a timid girl, but immediately told me she loved it. The lady that let us ride her bunch bike was very friendly. You could tell she had done this a million times. She said she'd been riding her bunch bike for over 5 years. However, I could tell she was a little unsure when I mentioned that we would probably be riding our bike on like nearby sidewalks occasionally, or quite a lot probably on the paved trail that is near my house. However, when we finished the test ride, I was all ready to purchase a bunch bike. I really enjoyed riding it. However, the next day, this same lady that let us test ride hers, she did send me a message kind of encouraging me to check out some two-wheeled options because she thought those would be easier for some of the narrower paths that I was probably going to ride on. After hearing her recommendation, I started thinking about, okay, how am I literally going to get from point A to point B on my cargo bike? And so I picked out a few places like the grocery store near my house or my daughter's preschool and used, at first I used Google Maps, and then I found mapmyride.com, which was a lot easier to use. And through that application, I could map where exactly I would be riding in order to get to where I was going. So then once I knew the route I would take, I actually literally went out with a tape measure and measured the width of like a couple of sidewalks I might have to ride on and measured the width of the trail that I ride on quite a lot around here so that I was able to compare the width of the trail versus the width of the bunch bike. I started to get a little bit nervous here because the width of the bunch bike is about 33 or 34 inches, and that took up literally the whole sidewalk. And on the trail I like to ride on, it took up pretty much the entire lane, like your entire side of the trail. No wiggle room. And so while I really like the stability that the three wheels gives me at slower speeds, it was at this point I thought, okay, I'll start looking at a couple two-wheeled options and see if those will work any better. So there weren't a lot of options in this category for me. You have the ridiculously expensive Risa Mueller, Harry versus Larry, but I just really could not justify that kind of expense so early in my cargo bike journey. Then the next tier down, still expensive, but it's where you'll find like the Urban Arrow and Bebo bikes. I did quite a bit of research on the Bebo bikes, looking on the website and calling and emailing a couple of the dealers they had listed, but really couldn't get a lot of information back from them. I probably spent a whole day or two's worth of free time just trying to get a price for the Bebo City, and was ultimately unsuccessful. I eventually just gave up after one of the more prominent bike shops in Canada told me that they no longer recommend and actually no longer sell the Babo City electric model. They said they couldn't justify the price of the Babo City when you could just get an Urban Arrow for the same price. So after that, I was like, okay, fine. I'll look into Urban Arrow. $7,000 was more than I wanted to spend on a bicycle. I had thought $5,000 for a bunch bike was too much. And the Urban Arrow was just a bit too fancy for me, a little too flashy, I guess. I'm naturally kind of a more reserved person. So buying a cargo bike, any cargo bike obviously would be a deviation from this, but more so for an Urban Arrow. They have nicer components, of course, with the Bosch battery, Bosch motor. I don't really get into all the numbers, torque, battery life, that kind of thing. Where I live, it is very flat, so I'm not particularly concerned about it. The one thing I was actually kind of interested in was the UL certification for the battery. This certification tells you that the battery has been through specific tests that deem it safe. Honestly, I probably wouldn't have paid much attention to this either, except my own sister had a lawnmower battery that spontaneously combusted and caught fire last year in her house. And it wasn't even charging or anything. So it really freaked everyone out. So I've kind of been on high alert around batteries since that happened. So I was happy to see that Urban Arrow batteries are UL certified. Bunch bike batteries were not UL certified when I was researching them back in January 2024. I did see an article out recently that said some of their newer versions are going to be UL certified, but as of this taping, those versions aren't actually available yet. So anyway, my next discovery was that I actually do have an Urban Arrow dealer within 30 minutes of my house. So I'm starting to think, okay, well, I actually could buy one from this bike shop and they would even transport it home for me, they told me. My husband and I started talking about the cost versus the reward. For my own peace of mind, I did run some numbers on how much the cargo bike would cost us, year after year. I kind of wanted to make sure I wouldn't be like losing money every year that I owned this bike. If you're interested in running your own numbers on that, I did do another video I'll link to below that goes through my numbers and gives you a spreadsheet to start with if you want to run your own numbers. So I was okay with how my numbers looked, and so I called the bike shop near my house and started talking to them about getting a test ride. However, this is easier said than done. Long story short, it took over a month before I was able to actually get a test ride. If I had to do it all over again, I would probably not go through the bike shop. I would go just directly to social media, join like a Urban Arrow Facebook group, and just put a message on there. Hey, I'm located here. Is there anyone near me that I could test ride your bike? People in these groups usually seem pretty willing and eager to help you out. But when we finally did get the test ride completed, it went great. My kids loved it. As we were leaving the bike shop after the test ride, my husband half jokingly said, "Yep, let's sell the Juke." And he was half joking, but he's half not joking. I have another video specifically on the test ride of the Urban Arrow. If you want to see what that was like, I'll include a link to it down below. There will be a bit of a learning curve. It's a big bike. I know I'm going to get it stuck somewhere and be cursing myself as I try to maneuver, push this thing out of wherever I've gotten it back to where it needs to be. But ultimately, I am pretty comfortable looking like I don't know what I'm doing. I think we're going to have a lot of fun on it. So we mulled it over for the weekend, and come Monday, I called the bike shop and ordered one. I'm currently waiting for it to arrive and hoping I don't get buyer's remorse. So ultimately, this bike checked most of the boxes for my family. I mean, we could actually buy one here in the middle of the United States. Kind of important. It has the cargo in the front. It has nice, safe components. So it seems maneuverable enough that I should be able to get it to where I need it to go in my not too bike-friendly city. So even though Urban Arrow wasn't on the initial list of cargo bikes, it did end up being the one that I think will hopefully fit my family best. We'll see if I'm right. So that's the abridged story of how I became a new cargo bike owner. It was about a 4-month process from start to purchase for me. I'd love to hear from you on where you are in this journey. Which bike did you decide to purchase and why? If you have any questions for me, leave them below in the comments and I'll get back to you. As always, thanks for watching.